You know, we can't all run off and live in a wilderness log cabin. If you're anything like me, you've got responsibilities, people who depend on you. But I am lucky. I live in an area where I can build a cabin in my backyard and pretend like I live off-grid. Prepare for when I can do it in real life, or when I have to. Maybe a rustic log cabin like Dick Prenike's is more your style than this funky little A-frame. But if you enjoy building things with your hands, or if cozy spaces and the idea of a simple, low-tech way of life doesn't sound so bad, even a little fun, well then you're in the right place. Be sure to subscribe. So as the saying goes, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. If you don't know that yet, then you're one of the lucky ones. You gotta have a plan B, right? What if there's a solar flare that takes out the electrical grid and civilized society collapses? What if there's a pandemic? What if AI takes your job? It could happen. What if you just want to live a simpler life? You gotta have a plan B, right? For me, this cabin is part of a practice run for any of those things. I envision it as a centerpiece of an off-grid backyard homestead, but if I had to do it again, I might just go with one of those pre-cut post and beam kits that can be delivered right to your build site. You get the satisfaction of building something yourself without starting completely from scratch. If that sounds good to you, check out the various styles to choose from and support this channel by using the referral link here or in the description. So about a year ago, I got this cabin dried in just in time for winter. Watch my other videos for more on the origin story and everything that went into getting it to that point. Since then, life has had a lot of ups, a lot of downs, a lot of what-have-yous, but I think I'm ready to show you how it's changed from a cold, bare-bones shell into a cozy, all-season getaway. I call it a man cabin. My wife calls it a she-shed. Whatever you call it, be sure to stick around to the end of this video for the big identity reveal. You don't want to miss that. Let's start by taking a look at what's been done this year on the inside. Where I live, temperatures can range from up near 100 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer to well below zero in the winter. It's got to be insulated. I was lucky to find someone on Facebook Marketplace selling a bunch of foil-faced Thermax polyiso on the cheap. It's got a high R value, it's lightweight, it's easy to cut, and it adds some rigidity to the structure. The long sloped roof was insulated using R21 rock wool or mineral wool. It's a little more expensive than fiberglass, but you don't need a lot of it for this cabin. I chose rock wool for a few reasons. It's literally made from lava spun into a cotton candy-like fluff, so it's 100% fireproof without all the hazardous fiberglass dust. Also, when rock wool gets wet, it dries out good as new. The flooring I used in the cabin is not real hardwood, but rather a manufactured product, but it still looks pretty good. It was easy for an amateur like me to install, and so far it seems pretty durable. Since we're on the floor, I should show you something I added that was not in the original plans. I framed the floor with 2x12s instead of 2x6s to give it more depth for storage compartments. I built these custom crates to make it easier to get stuff in and out. The handles double as underside supports for the access panels in the floor. For wall covering, I used some rustic-looking shiplap I got on clearance from Menards. For those of you who don't know, Menards is a big box home store we have here in the Midwest. I was also happy to find that the shiplap perfectly matches Minwax's classic gray water-based stain, so I could make the baseboards match. To make fitting and installation a little easier, I pre-cut and glued together the shiplap into larger panels before bringing it down to the cabin. That allowed me to make access panels too for the solar system I plan to install next spring. The wood stove is the focal point of the main room, and no, it's not a Holly Hobby Easy Bake Oven. It's a Canadian-made cubic mini Grizzly marine stove used in a lot of tiny homes, schoolies, and other small spaces. It's made of steel instead of cast iron, and it puts off plenty of heat for this cabin. I made a special shelf for the stove with an intake vent that pulls fresh air in through the wall behind it. The whole bump out area around the stove is another customization that was not part of the original plans. Instead of the gray barnwood, I paneled it with corrugated steel pulled off of an old dilapidated chicken coop at my buddy's house. I like how the patina, or rust, adds to the look of the place, and it's fireproof, and it helps heat the place by retaining radiant heat from the stove. I coated it with this flood penetrol to stop any further corrosion and make it cleaner to the touch for interior use. Of course, the stove needs a chimney too. Cutting a hole in the roof made me a little nervous, but it had to be done, and it turned out just fine. Now let's step out to look at this year's changes to the exterior. The plywood sheathing on the roof kept it pretty dry inside through the winter, but by spring I was experiencing some leakage issues, so getting the real roof on became a top priority. I had enough of the corrugated chicken coop steel left over to use on the section of roof over the bump out, as well as the front door awning. Not only do I like the shanty chic style it adds to the cabin, it just feels a little safer to have the chimney exit through a non-flammable metal roof. On the main sloped roof, I used Ondura brand corrugated asphalt roofing, again found on clearance from Menards. I love that place. Some folks on Reddit warned me against it, but so far so good. I have no complaints yet. I'll let you know if that changes. I found it a lot easier to cut than corrugated metal, and it's relatively lightweight, so one person can climb a ladder with a full sheet in one hand without too much trouble. Since I got the roof on, I haven't had any leaks. The stacked pallets I had been using as temporary front steps were a little sketchy, so I replaced those with some sturdy poly lumber hot tub steps I got on, you guessed it, Facebook Marketplace. I also built a 4-foot by 4-foot landing deck with cedar tone pressure treated lumber. It's equipped with adjustable feet to level it and a firewood kindling splitter. I also got the awning built and hung over the doorway this year, providing some protection from the elements when you're entering and exiting the cabin. The support frame is designed to reflect the right triangles of the cabin's half A-frame design. To me, this was the point at which the cabin looked complete. A couple of final touches included this decorative star motif. That empty area on the side of the bump out was just calling out for a little something. Finally, I stacked some of the logs from a couple of pine trees my neighbor cut down this summer to hide some of the support jacks and other stuff underneath. I think that looks way better than store-bought lattice skirting. Don't you think? With all that out of the way, I could put on my interior decorator hat. One piece of custom furniture I built especially for the cabin is this combination writing desk / countertop / sink. The jug holds a couple of gallons of water for making coffee or washing your hands. The dirty gray water drains down into a container underneath that can be taken out and disposed of properly. Sewing is something I know nothing about. The good news is I have an awesome wife who made the little curtain for the shelf underneath. She also made the curtain for the main window too. For seating, I went with folding furniture to maximize the small space. When I need to make more room, I can just fold everything up and set it aside. Up in the sleeping loft here, I've got some old-fashioned potato sacks covering up the ceiling, adding to that shanty chic vibe. Now you might be concerned that this is a fire hazard, with a wood stove, kerosene lanterns and all in such close proximity, but fear not. I took steps to make this place as fireproof as possible. Watch for a whole separate video about that. A couple pictures of the family, a set of tiny little antlers, and a few other personal mementos finish it off to make this cabin a cozy little getaway. So if you know me in real life or you've watched some of my other videos, you probably know my real name is Neil. But on the weekends, I like to wear shirts with other people's names on them. It's my sense of humor. Sometimes I'm Walt, Brian, Luciano, hey Ray, Kevork, Ridge, kind of like the Edge. Pretty cool. Bob, Melvin, Harold, Matt, City of Westminster's Employee of the Month. Not Topher. Chris. Lester's a good man. Works hard. Gets the job done. The whole point is, you can't take things too seriously. You gotta have a sense of humor. Life's hard enough. If you can't laugh at yourself, you're in for a rough ride, my friend. No reason to make it any worse than it has to be. So the plans I used to build this cabin called it the Dart, which is not a bad name, but I want to give my build its own identity. You might remember a few years ago, they did an online poll to name this $200 million Arctic research vessel in England. As you might expect, when you ask the public for names, they got things like not the Titanic, but far and away, the winner was Bodie McBoatface. Of course, they didn't name it that. They ended up calling it David Attenborough or something like that. To me, that's a perfect example of people who take themselves too seriously. I was thinking of doing a poll to name this cabin, but I kind of already decided what I want to call it. So in the spirit of not taking yourself too seriously, I've decided to name this place Cabin McCabinface. So there you have it, a little food for thought to chew on. If you take yourself too seriously, then you might, just maybe, be a douchebag. There's no shame in being a grown-ass man or woman who builds a cabin out in the yard. It's kind of fun. It keeps me off the couch and grounded in reality. There's a lot worse things I could be doing. To everyone else, it might look like I'm just pretending to live off the grid, but I'm really practicing and preparing for the unexpected. Because when the going gets tough, being prepared buys you time, and time buys you options. Hey, what do I know? I'm just a big guy sitting here in a tiny house.
Whoa, it does look cool in here. I like it a lot. Epic, epic. I can totally see like an Airbnb listing this. Oh, that's cool up there too. I like it, I like it.
Mom made those.
Oh, nice.
Oh, it's finished. Yes. Oh, this is beautiful. See?
What? This is an old man's cabin. It's adorable. Oh my God, you're gonna die here, aren't you, Neil? This is so cute. It reminds me of that Beverly Hillbillies.
Oh, wow. This is really, really cool.
Oh, wow. This is really cool. It's actually pretty spacious for a tiny cabin. We got the little sink now. Awesome. High five.